morning to every one of you. Thank you for coming down. I know it's a Friday, and it's early in the morning. And I should also thank Dean Ali for organizing this workshop. And it's a small group, so we will be more interactive. We'll be able to communicate with each other more. And we will see how things go. So thanks to the Graduate Studies office. So what we will be doing today is we will be focusing our talk, or we will be dividing the talk into 3 basic sections. So we will start with a general introduction, and then we will go into some basic questions which you all will think about. And then we will talk about the mentoring part. And then after that, again, we will have some really pointed questions about us. It's more a self-reflection than anything else, and see where we as UAE University stands. Now, the university is putting a lot of emphasis on we transitioning from a degree granting institution into a research emphasis institution, right? We are all wanting UAE University going forward as the university of the future to be investing a lot in research. And research is the identity. And hand in hand with research goes graduate education, right? And mentoring of graduate students, whether they are master's students or they are PhD students, is a very, very important enterprise. And it has to be taken seriously, because in many ways, the graduate students are the locomotives of the research that is being carried out. So it perfectly fits into our future agenda that we are increasing research, we are increasing the number of graduate students, and our investment into our graduate students and our mentoring is also increasing. So this workshop will be focusing primarily on that. First slide, please. Now, this mentor and mentee relationship, the teacher-disciple relationship, is nothing new. All we are doing is modifying it, making it better as we are going forward. But this is so traditional. The old cultures have had it for ages, for thousands of years. The value of this relationship is extremely important. The teacher-disciple relationship is so very vital, to the extent that it is not just unique, but people even call it sacred. That if once I am under a mentor, I devote myself totally to that mentor and let him or her guide me through the journey so that I become wiser. I have more knowledge. The same thing goes with the disciple too. That, oh teacher, you are giving me your best. It is my duty to become or come up to the mark, or come up to the expectation. So it's a very old, special relationship. This is how I view it, especially from the culture where I originally come from. I give you a very simple, small little example from the region. I will not name the country. I will not name the person. Yet I will give you an example. A leader in this region, he never used to receive personally any dignitaries coming from outside. Never. That was the protocol. Okay, there are different protocols in different countries. And he never entertained personally anyone. He never went to the airport to receive anyone. And this particular time, the plane of the dignitary from another country arrived. And lo and behold, he went to the airport for the first time, waited down at the red carpet, and as soon as the plane came, instead of receiving the person down, he went up the plane. He went up the plane, and then he went inside received the dignitary, took the person down, and there are limousines, right? To take the person, a guest, back to the palace or whatever it is. Instead of a driver, he personally drove the dignitary himself. Now this is a head of a country. Later people asked him, we don't understand you. You never do this. You don't even go to the airport. You receive the person in your palace all the time. What was the exception over here? There was only one exception. And that was, once upon a time, this other person who came, the dignitary who came, is my teacher, is my PhD mentor. He happens to be the head of state today of some other place. I happen to be the head of state over here, but this relationship between the teacher and disciple never dies. And I have to show the respect that this person deserves. So the value of this teacher-disciple relationship is very, very special, very, very pious. It goes very deep. The relationships that we establish, they are very, very long. I just lost my mentor 2 years ago, and it was pretty painful. So you develop very special relationships. You are no more a teacher and a disciple, but you're more as a father and a child, or a mother as a child. That's the level of depth this mentoring takes at different levels. Next slide. So there are 3 components related to now we come more to the graduate education side, okay? 3 major components. One is the mentor, another is the mentee, and we typically focus on these 2 aspects a lot. But there's a third aspect that is equally important for the success of graduate education, is the ecosystem that the institution provides to both of them so that they are successful. So the institutional commitment and contributions are extremely important to enable so that these mentor and mentee are able to do and blossom the way it is needed. So always keep in mind that this third component is very, very important, because it is the environment that is provided, support that is provided, infrastructure and resources that are provided are vital for the mentor to be able to do the things that are necessary, and the mentee to be able to do things in a very smooth manner. So these are the 3 components. I will focus again on the 2 components, the mentor and the mentee, and I have devoted just 1 slide on it, but that does not mean I don't want to underestimate the significance. That's why I'm underlying it already even now today, okay? Next slide. What we do very quickly is, because it's a small group, so you don't need to go and answer these questions online. I've done it so that we can conduct some kind of poll and all those things. So very quickly, and we will discuss it more. What are the key attributes you look in a mentor? And this was for students. I was hoping there will be students over here today, but probably no students at all. What do they look in a mentor? Because I wanted to get their perspective, that what are they looking at? Maybe you can think about the times when you were a student and you were looking for a mentor, and what are the attributes that you thought that, my PhD guide should be this. What are those? Just let's talk about it as a student right now. You'll feel younger, okay? Yeah.
I think when I was a student,
Yeah.
I was looking 2 prospects. One is the attitude of the professor, how it will be.
Yes.
And second is the experience in the field, how it will lead me to complete my PhD.
Very good. Very good. Yes, sir.
I will be thinking of that he is in the top of his field,
Field.
and also that I am interested in his area.
in his area.
Yeah.
Okay.
And being reliable and help as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Shri?
The same two attributes, the global standing, standing of the professor,
Yeah.
and how the professor deals with the students.
The attitude which you were talking about.
Attitude.
Yes. Attitude. Of course, these are vital. Anybody else wants to add?
Yeah, mainly time. I was looking, I mean, person who has time for me to.
Time for me. Time for me.
Again,
And,
attitude.
and we can go on and on and on because the wish list is this big. That I wish my professor is this, and the best.
Yeah.
Okay? Great, great. So we will talk about these things. Next slide. What are the key attributes you look in a graduate student when you're recruiting, when you're about to recruit them? Because, you know, even in our university, it is becoming competitive, right? We're rejecting students, which is a good thing. Of course, we want to have more, but now we have become selective compared to how we were 5 years ago and how we were 7 years ago. We are becoming competitive. But that's a good news that we are competitive. So when we are becoming competitive and we are becoming selective, what are the qualities that you're looking in an incoming student that I've got funding, I will take a student provided the student is A, B, and C. What are those A, B, and C in your opinion?
Motivated.
Motivated,
Diligence.
diligence. Anything?
Background knowledge.
Background knowledge.
Have time.
Sorry?
Has time.
Has time, but the person has come here for that. Should have time. Good, very
I
good.
think again,
Very-
attitude.
Sorry?
Attitude still should be there.
Attitude still,
Because
yes,
really
yes.
first is the attitude.
Yes.
They really follow you or just me?
Yeah.
And here we have the class.
Yeah.
There are some students, I mean, they also full job, they have full job, so they really
It's
don't have
very
time
difficult,
for their
yeah,
studies.
very difficult for them. So at the end of the day, what we really want is we want to have a student who is committed to doing the work they want to accomplish, but at the same time is committed to do things within the framework of our own research, right? So that both of them succeed and go forward. So there are specific attributes that we look for when we are selecting our graduate students. And in some cases, we also want to see that despite everything, we should have the right chemistry, the two of us,
Yeah.
right? It's so important. Because if two are loggerheads with each other, and the brightest of the people, things don't come out the way they are supposed to be. So there are many factors that are extremely important going forward. So good, we are on the same page. Next one. Let me ask you, there are 7 people or 6 people over here, 7 people over here. So you did your PhD. How do you rate your, for me, my PhD happened several decades ago. And I have got vivid memories about my PhD. Some sweet, some sour, some bitter. Okay, I didn't put the sweet, sour, and bitter over here. Instead, I put the excellent, moderate, and bad. Reflecting back, attitudes change. When you are in the well, you are dead scared, and you may react differently. When you're out of the well, you start thinking differently. You become wiser, and you think about how you were treated that time. You have a different perception or perspective about it. Okay? So, at that time, so don't talk about today. At that time, what was your experience about your PhD?
I think when I started my PhD, my supervisor was very strict. She was very punctual. She wanted to give deadlines and this one, that one.
And you hated it.
So usually during, every time keep me busy.
Yeah.
So then I look to my friends, I say, oh, they are really happy, so their supervisor is very good. So but during the PhD, when I moving forward, so then I realized at the end of PhD, so I was lucky I got this supervisor because she kept me every time busy, engaged, and involved in many things.
Yeah.
And she trained me so many things. Once I graduated, so I become independent. Means when I got my first job, I know everything. Writing proposal, paper, everything. So then when I compare with my other friends, so then I feel, oh, my supervisor best.
It's the best.
Yeah.
So perspectives change.
Yeah.
I used to hate my master's supervisor because mine was a professional degree in veterinary medicine. So after veterinary medicine, 5 years of veterinary medicine, then I decided to do my master's. Oh my goodness, he would not even talk properly. I was as if his untouchable servant. He would howl at me, bark at me, shout at me. I said, can he ever talk nicely to me? I always felt that I'm a total crap. I still remember when I finished my master's degree, I submitted my thesis and had my exam, and I said, I was so scared even to go to his room, and then I told him, oh, okay, sir, thank you very much. I'm truly grateful to you, and hopefully we will see you one day. And thank you so much for everything what you've done, even though I hated it, okay? So I told, thank you very much for whatever you've done to me. And there he started shouting at me. Where are you going? What are you doing? Why? And do you have a job? I said, no, not yet. Yeah, how can you get a job? You will not get a job ever. I said, well, whatever. It's okay. And then immediately, because we were a batch of 6 students doing masters, and our thesis was pretty tough to write. It was 6 months of extensive research and then data analysis and whatnot. So I was the first one to finish, and I was very happy that I'm getting out of this place. He immediately said, you are not going anywhere. Oh gosh, I thought 2 years are over and I'm done. And you will stay here and you will work with the rest of the 5 students, and you will check their thesis and you will work and help them. I said, no, come on. I couldn't say no to him. So I just sat down. Another 3 months working with my fellow colleagues, working on their thesis, correcting it, English, whatnot. Do you know, 10 years later, 10 years, it took 10 years, I felt he put a lot of trust in me. He saw that the thesis that I put together and all the way it was written. I met him in Delhi one time, and he said, that was the reason why I kept you. That I wanted you to learn more, but at the same time you had done such a good job that I wanted you to get into it. By the way, side story, after he kicked me out of his office after these 3 months, 15 days later he sent a telegram. Those times no emails, telegrams, okay? He sent a telegram that you are hereby hired as a faculty member in the department. So that's the beauty of things. People can be different. Anyway, next question. Next. Oh, the previous one, what was it? What did you admire in your PhD supervisor? Most.
So number one is time. So the
Time.
supervisor should have.
Yeah, you expected.
Yeah, means one we want to, because if supervisor has no time, means after 1 month, so means you're still waiting in a queue. And if you have the 10 students, so it means your turn maybe after 6 months.
So time is a big
So I
factor.
think one of the more important is the time.
Anything else?
For me, it was like freedom. My supervisor, he gave me freedom of even choosing my own project. What you want to do, how you want to do, almost everything. He let me do everything from the scratch by myself. And at the same time, we had a very large group, like 25 PhD student and some master student. We used to call it a mini company. He used to have technician, he used to have workshop support, everything. So, but we, as it was a big group, we cannot meet every now and then. So we had a weekly meeting.
Yeah,
So
lab meetings.
So that weekly meeting was the thing we can face to face communicate. But other time, I don't know where he used to sleep and when he used to sleep. Even at 2 o'clock in the night, I send an email. Within 5 minutes, I get there.
Oh my God. Isn't that scary?
It was not that scary for me because I was like, because the freedom he gave me,
Yes.
so I was doing on myself, and then my job was to tell him, even the project I choose was a little bit new even for himself. So he said,
Oh.
if you will be graduated, at the time you will teach me. You will teach me the field.
This
then you
is
will
so
be-
interesting. Actually, I can relate to you because I finished my PhD back in India, but then I went to Sweden and I started a fresh PhD because I didn't like it. So I left it on the table, did not defend it. It was ready, bound, ready. So I took another professor. He gave me so much freedom all the 3 years that I can't tell you. But he let me work in a field which he knew nothing about. And I was the one who was pushing that I want to work. You know, genomics was just bursting out at that time in late 80s, especially in the animal side. It was just starting. I was one of the first persons to jump into it and take over. And he said, I know nothing about it. I know only the chromosomes, but I see you have got a huge interest. So go on. So it was complete freedom. So I can understand it. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I can relate to what you said. My PhD supervisor, he said, you only graduate when you know better than me.
Than me. Lovely, lovely, lovely. You see, so there are people who are very humble. Because sometimes you hear horror stories. But then there are these beautiful stories also where mentors are really very caring. Can you believe, as a graduate student, I certainly came to my mentor and said, you know what, Dr. Gustafsson, I need to go to Oslo to learn this technique. And all he used to say was, tell Gudrun to arrange your ticket and everything. After that, one of the times, well, I went to Heidelberg, and then I went to Los Alamos in California. I found a lab which was best in the world in the field. All I told him, I'm going there. How many days? I said, 15 days. Okay. You will learn something good. I tell you, these people are just angels coming from somewhere, letting you go out and work, and letting you try test your abilities to fly as best as you can. And you know what he did? He said, okay, these 4 places, 4 international top labs that you have visited, these are the 4 courses we need from you. So no coursework. In Sweden, I did not have any coursework. These 4 lab visits, they were immediately converted into 2 credit, 3 credit, 4 credit. Khalas, done. That's the flexibility which you enjoy. Anyway, next one. So I don't want you to hate your professors, but was there something that you hated about or you did not like about your professor?
Maybe, now I look into it, I could not understand the freedom. I thought that I left my home country to learn, and I was expecting them to show me, but they were expecting the opposite, that me, I find the techniques, the protocol, optimize things myself. So
Yeah.
I could not understand the freedom
Yeah.
back then, but now I understand that I
Now.
learned a lot because
Yes.
I tried multiple. So back then I hated it, that why there is no one guiding me all the way, but now I understand. So
Yeah,
I
we-
hated it then.
Yeah. And it all depends from the background that you come. In some of our cultures, we are told how to take the steps. Back in my country also, it is that you will be guided, and guided is a literal word, that you will be guided. Now you do this, now you do this, now you do this. And coming from that background, if I am told, do it by yourself or think by yourself, oh, it's your problem. I mean, when first time I heard this phrase, it's your business, I was like, this person doesn't even care about me. But now I understand today that the person so much cared about me that he or she, as a supervisor, wanted me to think and take decisions myself and be responsible for my decisions. That's what mentorship is about. That's what it is all about. Next one. I think so we all agree that our perception changes with time. We may not like a lot of things in our supervisor or professor at that time, at the heat of the moment, but when we become reflective, a little bit wiser, we start looking at things differently with a different colored glasses, and our respect for our mentors usually grows. Okay? So with this little background, let's move now and talk about the personal qualities. And there will be on and on, many. So I might be rushing through some of the slides, but I try to put as much as possible I can over here. So the next few slides we will be talking about these qualities. Please, commitment and interest. More or less we talked about it. A mentor has to be committed to the graduate student. Should show interest in the student and in the student's work also. That's a necessity. If you don't show, the student feels left out. So it's critical. Has to be a supportive personalities. We all go through cycles in our graduate education. One day, or 5 days are bad and 1 day is good. It's a typical PhD mania, I can call it. And in those times, we look at that fatherly and motherly love to support us. So being supported is extremely important. And in times when we are down, we need that enthusiasm to come up. And mentor plays a very important role. Mentor should be so sharp that even when the student is walking in the corridor, just by the walk should be able to understand, looks like this is a bad day for the guy or the girl. And all you need to do is just come down, pat, hey, John, what's happening? Is everything okay? And that little sentence of is everything okay means a world to the graduate student. That's all what it needs. Because the students suddenly feel, I'm cared. And that's all what they want. And of course, the mentor has to be discovery oriented. And the word discovery I purposely put over here is that we all do research. And the word research, if you break it down, and then search. So something that has already been done somewhere else in the world and we are doing it again over here. That's the difference between original, novel research versus cyclic research. I strongly recommend that we as mentors refrain from cyclic research and engage in original research, and that's how we will be discovery oriented, and we will send a message to the student that whatever you are doing is novel. And that itself is a huge boost for the student. So it's very important that the type of research we are doing is discovery oriented. So, I mean, this is more or less self-explanatory. What happens sometimes, or half of the times, is that we want to throw our impression on our mentors, saying, I did it this way, that's the best way, you also do it. We are not creating our clones. When I say we are not creating our clones, we don't want our thought process to be imposed on our students. Of course, we want to we share knowledge, but we don't make them do it our way. We want to nurture their creativity. And that is one thing as mentor, we got to be very careful that we have that window. So one window is where we tell who we are, how we work, but then always we should be able to tell, Find your way. Try your way. Failure is okay. So nurturing creativity is extremely, extremely important. And coming to other professional qualities of a mentor, of course, we all kind of talked about it in the beginning in one of the first slides. Should be knowledgeable, should be an expert in his or her field. It's really critical that you understand. But like you were saying, and that was the case with me, that guy was not an expert in his field. My person was not an expert in his field. So it still works. But he could ask questions. Some of his questions were irrelevant, didn't matter, but some of his questions were very good. So knowledge is good. A recognized professional makes a big difference because that professional understands the nuances of graduate education, understands what is needed for the student to progress. And the progress is not just getting the thesis done and getting the degree in hand. The progress is always beyond that. Always beyond that. So that's why it should be a recognized professional who understands academia, but at the same time understands what are the implications and how will my graduate student use this knowledge once he or she is out in the field searching for a job. Okay? It's always good that the mentor has a strong publication record. That makes a big difference. Active in research, successful proposal writing, grant proposals. It's really important. If you have not written proposals, did not receive funding, it really becomes difficult to expect the best from the students. Because the students do learn a lot from that. Even just writing proposals, they learn a lot from their mentor. I had to write a lot of proposals in Sweden for my mentor. I still remember just before Christmas the window opened, and because I was not traveling anywhere during Christmas time, the entire Christmas I was writing at least a couple of proposals. And he was taking it, submitting, and we were getting this much funding. I can't tell you how happy I used to be. My name was there on the side because I was a student, but he was taking it and 90%, boom, 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 done. He was happy, I was happy. I was happy that I'm learning. I never had this feeling that, I wrote 90% of the proposal, where is my name? It should be number 1. No. This is what the graduate students, I wish graduate students were here and I could tell them. The thing that came out was I learned a lot under him. I enjoyed that freedom of writing proposals and he loved it. So that becomes important. It's also very important that we as mentors are recognized outside our institution. It's very important. As keynote speakers, or as invited speakers, or as invited policymakers anywhere else. So there are a number of platforms. But then you become a role model for your graduate student. So if you are presenting just at yet another conference or workshop, even outside the country, of course it is valuable. But the moment your student will see you standing on the podium as a keynote speaker, it's a catalyst. And the student starts feeling, one day I will, one day. Just like my boss, I will, or maybe even better. That's what the value of being recognized outside the country is. So try to think it this way, that the students are watching us and they're looking at us, and if they want to see that what's the track record of student success. Now imagine a situation, I'm an assistant professor who has just joined. I finished my PhD, then I did a 2 years postdoc somewhere, and another 2 years postdoc somewhere, and now I am an assistant professor. How much track record do I have? Hardly any. So students immediately judge this. They immediately come to know about it. And typically, the students will go where there is more stability, there is more meat, that I can trust this guy, and the young ones are not trusted. But that's where your CV can speak. That's where your funding can speak. And we all start somewhere in our career. And be grateful to those students who still come and believe in you, knowing that you don't have a track record, and we are still joining you. I tell you, those are the most valuable students in your career. Most valuable students. Make sure you invest in those students as much as you can, because you still have time, even though you are on your toes writing grants literally every day. You are on your toes writing new publications, putting them together, the manuscripts, because you are still in the fight. But despite that, you will have to find time for your graduate students, and that's the best thing you can do. This is creating reputation. This is giving confidence to your students. So don't be worried if you are in the initial stages of your career where you're starting. I know the students have got a kind of a discriminatory attitude towards you, but that's the time when you can shine the most and get the best out of the students and make the best students out of you. But those who are in the later stages of their career, of course they're established, they know the game, they know how to do it, but some of us become a little bit relaxed. Okay, you come, you also want to join me? Come, never mind, join. And we keep taking students, and we've got less time. Partly we are also getting engaged into service jobs. Some of us start going into administration and other things at the same time. So our pie is this big, and it's very difficult to accommodate. So be very careful. Finding that balance is really critical. So there are differences between early career faculty members and late career faculty members. Each one of them should know that where do I stand, how do I contribute to the best. Okay, next one. So what outcomes depict the track record? So when we think about that, if I want to check the track record of a mentor, so if I'm being evaluated that how good have I been as a graduate mentor, what are those things that typically come to mind? That this professor, man, he's great as a PhD mentor because, or she's fantastic because, in your opinion, what are those factors that come to your mind?
Maybe he's a pioneer in his field, based on the talk he has, maybe as a keynote speaker, maybe the H-index, maybe the publication, what journal he's published. So a lot of factors.
Yeah, a lot of factors.
That should be helpful.
Sorry?
Helpful.
Helpful, yeah.
And the other thing is people look into where his students are going after being graduated.
Anything?
Is another.
I think one of the important factors is the GOT, graduation on time, is how your supervisor is going to deal so that you are not wasting a lot of time on your PhD. And finally, how supervisor is helping to build your CV. So this is not only means one factor, means
there are multiple factors.
Means you are dealing with students in a multiple ways, so at the end he become a perfect.
Yeah. So you put it right on the target. You put it right on the target. The best way to judge about the success of a faculty member as a mentor is, where are my students today? That's the biggest. There was a faculty member in Texas where I worked for 15 years, Texas A&M, next door to me. This guy has won every possible award in the world, except the Nobel Prize. Every possible award that could be given in the field of agriculture and veterinary medicine in the world, every possible. He's such a decorated guy. And the most humble guy I know, most humble guy. If you prepare a list of his graduate students and see where they are today, they are much higher than him, of course, but in places that are unbelievable. Head of this, director of this, chancellor, vice chancellor, this, it's a list. And he has graduated 85 students, and they're all over the world. It speaks a lot for him. Of course, graduating students on time, students like it. That if I go into that lab, I know I will go out on time. Everybody wants, they are in a hurry, they want to do that. They develop a strong CV, yes. If I come out from this lab, he will make me sweat or she will make me sweat. I will lose my sleep, but I will come out with a CV that will speak for me as I go forward. High quality publications. Prestigious job progression after doing PhD. Because the student becomes so good that progresses. Actually, the person is progressing on his or her own ability, but also at the back of what he or she learned from the supervisor. Makes a big difference. And excellent careers, as I was saying, prestigious post-PhD grants, so postdoc grants. So in many countries, in US and in Europe, people apply very often. Actually, I was after my PhD students, as soon as they were in the last year of their PhD, write grants to get a postdoc position so that you don't have to knock at somebody's doors and say, I need money. You used to say, I have money, would you like to take me? That makes a big difference. So I used to make them write. And at Texas A&M, I made it a rule. When I was there, Dean for Research and Graduate Studies, I made them write. I had at least 3 workshops. Actually, in the college, I started internal grants of $10,000 to students, competitive. That's how getting them in motion. So it's extremely important. And reputed postdoc or job placements. So you all were more or less on the target. These are the attributes. This is against what we need to put ourselves when we are in front of the mirror trying to tell, am I doing the right job? Measure it here. You will come to know you're doing the right job or not. Where do you stand? And what changes you might like to make to enable these things to happen. Next one. The person, as we all said, should be genuinely interested in the research project and a very highly responsible individual. Not that I take you and then I disappear. That's not how it should be. Helping the students stay on schedules, steady progress all the time. Are you doing that? Of course, you don't want to be a parent asking all the time. Yet, a little bit of that parenting love and care has to be visible. And understanding the area thoroughly, passionate about research, all those things are there. But 2 major things: that genuinely interested in research projects, and at the same time, a highly responsible individual. These are the 2 things that we need to have in a mentor. I think so. Many of you mentioned about time. And here you see, I'm coordinating 5 different R&D projects. I'm in 20 committees of the university, and I have been asked to be, acting dean or acting vice blah, blah, blah for some time, and then I can spare a few minutes for you. Come and join me. Guys, don't do that. Be honest. It's not that you want a crowd, you want quality. This is a commitment. It's like having a baby, okay? If you decide to have a baby, you have to put time and effort into taking care and growing that baby too. So this is that commitment, this is that growing. Next one. So in terms of time, it should have adequate and effective supervision. That's what time decides. And accessible, approachable, available. These are the 3 things that need to be there. And invest in gauging the student need, that even from far you can see the student needs something. You know it, that what does the student need. Next one. regular communication and interaction, that you need to talk with the student on a regular basis. Sometimes you might have to have a very straight talk, sometimes you might have to have a compassionate talk, but that communication and interaction is extremely, extremely important all throughout the PhD education. Next. Just a previous one, last line. I really want to emphasize on this. I really want to emphasize on this. Mentors, many of the mentors feel that they are the boss. Of course you are, no doubt about it. But if you're a boss, you don't have to go out and show yourself as a boss, that I am the boss. You can still act as a boss, and keep in mind, the students are just like your own children. They're not your slaves. It does happen. Unfortunate, not in most cases, but in some cases it happens. And this has to be avoided. This has to be avoided. Next one. And yeah, we already talked most of the things about it, that it's not about simply having a graduate student and then, okay, get going. Some of us can, but most of us cannot. So help with the different stages of graduate education, whether it is the courses. Help them discuss together with you so that they choose the right courses for their progression. If they are making a thesis plan, sit down and talk with them for the design and help them prepare the experiments and talk about what kind of analysis will be done. That discussion is very important. And also when the data is obtained, how to synthesize it, how to contextualize it in relation to what is available, and how to draw the conclusions. Most students don't know, they need help. So make them think. Don't spoon feed, make them think. Next one. Our goal is to make sure that they become independent thinkers. Again, it goes to one of the cartoons that I showed you in the beginning. We don't want to make them our clones. We don't want them to think the way we think, but we want to promote their thought process such that they still are thinking good, they are thinking revolutionary, different from us. At the same time, they are thinking in the right direction. And provide constant and constructive feedback. Sometimes what happens, our manuscript comes to our table, we are busy, and then we do just some comments, send the manuscript, and you get a scathing review of the manuscript. And then you're angry on the on the student. What crap have you written? Oh no. Give time, have some patience. If somebody has to be asked to make it right 5 times, ask them to write it 5 times. Okay? So those are the things that are extremely important, that we provide constructive feedback and healthy criticism and give our edits. Next one. And our goal is eventually to let the students blossom on their own strength. Extremely important. Let them blossom on their own strength. And also allow the students, and that's where the balanced mentoring becomes extremely important, that we are not too much involved, at the same time we are not too much withdrawn. We need to find that balance, because we have to allow the student to blossom. And allow the student to evolve. Let them make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We, in our PhD times, we did stupid mistakes. And we have to learn to say, it's okay, never mind. Don't make the student feel bad about it. No, the student is a learner, and he or she should not feel bad about it. Help them gain confidence whenever they do mistakes, and let them, it's okay if it goes wrong. Even if the experiment goes wrong, it's okay, never mind. I think so many times I used to use this word, Hakuna Matata. That's okay. Take it easy, relax, chill. That's not the end of the world, okay? And our goal as a mentor is to bring the best out of each student. Yes, that measure of best is not the same for each and every student, but we still try to get the best out of the student. Okay, next. One very important thing is that some of the mentors, they forget that the PhD student has done all the work, and yet they have the audacity to stand and say, I did it. Those are the times when there is an opportunity for a mentor to step 2 steps back, get the PhD student in the front, and say, this is the lady who did the job. And I'm so grateful and I'm really proud. Those are the moments when your mentorship comes out as best, because you're promoting the student and getting the students up. And of course, these are all factors that are very, very important. We have to acknowledge wherever it is necessary, even if this much amount of work is done. And never prey on the students' sentiments and abilities, because you really crash their confidence. Anger is the last thing we want to show. Anger is the last thing. So never show anger. Restrain yourself. Show your best. That's why I said mistakes happen, show your best still. Try to remember the days when we ourselves did mistakes. Okay. So I told you that institutional support is extremely important. You know, there were 3 things: mentor, mentee, and the institutional support. I tell you, institutional support is as important as the role of a mentor, as well as what the mentee should be doing. We have to provide the best environment, best resources, best infrastructure, best things beyond the lab environment, extracurricular activities. So disciplinary development is one thing, but at the same time, extra professional development is equally important. Outside development is equally important. Developing how to interact is very important. Developing how to communicate is very important. Developing how to be leaders is very important. Understanding policy and making policies is very important. Just knowing the subject is as if doing a PhD and scoring 40 out of 100. That's how I view it. So all these things are important. So take-home message for graduate students, and I thought there will be a lot of graduate students, so anyway, doesn't matter. So PhD is just a small but very critical part of a very long journey. And you all faculty members now realize it much better than probably you had appreciated when you were PhD student. At that time, it was everything. Yes, ma'am, you were saying something? No. So at that time, it was everything, but today you realize that, oh man, my journey is this big, and PhD was just this small little part of that, okay? And you can make it decisive and really memorable. So enjoy it to the best. That's what I tell graduate students. And at the same time, do the best so that you feel that, oh gosh, that was really the best I did. And definitely have expectations. As graduate students, you should have expectations from yourself. You should have expectations from your colleagues. You should have very high expectations from your mentor. It's perfectly right. But don't expect that miracles will happen and the supervisor will come with a magic wand and do things for you. No, that's not how it goes. Instead, commit yourself to doing miracles during that period of time. So tell your students that this is what life is about, that you're here to do something extraordinary, do it. Next one, that's the take-home message. Next one. For the mentors then is, all you have to do is enable your graduate students, empower them, let them loose, let them go out and see how far they can imagine and what they can achieve. Just be the person supporting them and guiding them and encouraging them so that they can smell where success is and go blindly after it. That's the level of enthusiasm you can make. And always, this is what I very, very strongly believe. And I think so one of you probably mentioned it, try to make them better than you. That's what life is about. That's what life is about. I cannot tell you how proud you will be when they will be more successful than you. And I guarantee that when they will be standing on that podium, they will say, this is who I am, but where I am standing is because of this person. Remember I told you the story right in the beginning of a head of the state from this region? How humble he became that when his mentor came as a head of state of another country, he broke all protocols and went out and really showed the respect. This is the level of respect students give, even when they become whosoever they become. What's the time? Way beyond?
No, we are still within time.
Within time. There are a few questions. There are more reflective questions, okay? And I'll go through them pretty quick because we are a small group, so we don't have to go online. If it is okay, we can do it quickly, okay? Okay. Interdisciplinarity. How important is it for graduate education? Highly.
Depends.
Depends. Okay.
Moderate.
Moderate. Okay. Okay. Yep. You see, as the world is changing so fast, knowing a discipline is very good. Having an in-depth understanding of the discipline is very good. But having how this discipline connects to other discipline, because as soon as you get outside the PhD, you will be interacting with people outside your discipline. You're not in a cocoon. You will have to work. And I'm not doing the same thing that I was doing earlier. So that background understanding helps a lot. So today, there in high-level tier 1 institutions, interdisciplinarity is very, very strongly encouraged, even at the graduate level. To the extent that we used to have one person from another college, from a totally different discipline, coming and being in the committee asking questions. I remember this professor who I was telling about, who's the best who has all the awards other than Nobel Prize, he was in one committee in engineering department at Texas A&M, and he was just sitting, and this student was probably talking about material science, cement, concrete mix, and all those things. And you remember these trucks where these rollers are there and it's constantly rolling? So this was a final PhD defense. And this professor from genetics said, okay dear, can you tell me why this, I drive and I see this truck roll. The student could not answer it. That was it. That was it. Very simple things. So people outside have got very simple questions, and you should be able to answer all those questions. Anyway, next one. Next, let's go. Should graduate students be affiliated only with activities connected to the lab and the professor?
No.
Absolutely. I asked this question last year also. And last year, because it was online, so I had almost 70 or 80 people online, and 90% of them had this no answer. Now I tell you something, that we in this university need to do something more about it. Really, we need to do something more about it. This is one thing where we are still work in progress. Okay, next one. It is wisdom beyond the PhD subject matter. So it is beyond the PhD subject matter, the wisdom that somebody gains, makes the student successful in the future.
Yes.
Next one. Typically, graduates transition largely during their career away from their thesis research. So you did your thesis research, But 10 years down the road, you might be doing something different. 20 years down the road, you might be doing something totally different. Does that happen?
Yes.
Of course. Because science also changes. Can you believe I changed my direction every 5 years? Every 5 years. Because the funding agency changes its direction too. And I have to tiptoe and dance together with them. The things that were priority 5 years ago are no more priority today. So it does happen. Even in terms of profession, it changes. Next one. Is Graduate Student Association, now think about that. Is Graduate Student Association at the college or university level and its activities a waste of time and a waste of professors' research funds?
No.
Where are our graduate students? I have been struggling in my college, and I'm a dean, okay? I've been struggling in my college to have a graduate student association for last 4 years. And the argument I hear from the students, the faculty members are always very quiet, from the students, we are not allowed to come to graduate student association because it's wasted of time. That's the difference between, I mean, these are the platforms which will allow our students to grow. Which will allow our students, because you remember I told you that it is the activities that you do beyond your discipline that takes you to places. So it's very important for our university to engage more into this, support it at the college level, support it at the university level. A vibrant graduate student association is a reflection of the wisdom of the mentors and the wisdom of the institution investing into graduate education. So, yes, sir.
And to some degree, it goes back to what you said earlier. You want to make connections to other disciplines and other whatnot. So that's a good opportunity for graduate students to mingle and
Interact, yes.
interact and actually reach out, maybe start new collaborations or whatever. So.
Yeah. So I'm not giving up. This is my 3rd year, and you're having it soon. The graduate student meet is coming up, and we have crafted it out. I tell you, at Texas A&M, I had such a wonderful graduate student association, and the activities were once a month, 2 hours, fabulous. Of course, I gave them pizza, so that was there. Okay, should PhD students write review articles? That's a very interesting question, but I want to hear from you.
Sure.
So yes.
At what stage of their career, of their graduate education period?
Probably more to work.
Sorry?
The middle, maybe.
Middle, okay.
The beginning is too early. The end, they're busy with the.
Have you been asked? Have you been asked by a journal? Have you been reached out and said that we would like you to write a review article? Why? Out of your experience, out of your depth of knowledge, out of your understanding, out of the publications that you have published, they want a review article from you. Think about it. Are the graduate students mature enough, ready enough, knowledgeable enough to be able to write a review article in their 1st and 2nd year?
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
It's very difficult, but I think it depends on the type of the review. Like if it was a systematic review where they can, it gives them maybe not to write an article, but it gives them a knowledge where is the gap in the field if they started, but then maybe they could only publish it toward the, like later in their career.
Very good.
For me, it was very useful to my students because they then came to me and said, well, nobody did this, or we could not at least find it. But then I had a close collaboration with the librarian, so he was helping them
Search
do,
things.
a systematic review where the review is focused on the field, on the question, on the hypothesis they're looking at.
So there are 2 things. Very good. we are coming to the real discussion now. There are two things. Every student, whether master's or PhD, has to do an in-depth literature review. Period. There's no question about it. We all unanimously agree on that. Yet, my personal contention is that does not make them understanding enough to be able to stand. As soon as you finish your PhD, then almost at that stage you are. Why? You've done some research, you've collected a lot of data, and you've really done in-depth review of literature related to those articles. You have a standing to write something about it. There I feel. But sometimes I feel, what's your first paper that you're writing? I'm writing a review article. I said, what?
No, nothing done.
That's where my question is. Okay, so that's why I brought it up. Should PhD students write grant applications? Definitely, please. Of course, we don't have a platform for it. I have been recommending it that we need to open a small little, how to say, competitive possibility. Even if it is only 50,000 dirham to get them engaged into writing. What second difference? Of course, they will learn how to write, but the second biggest difference they will make is, you remember I told you how do we measure a mentor's ability? Building the CV. They will have on their CV that they wrote a proposal, it was competitive, it was reviewed externally, and finally they are the ones who received it. It makes a big difference. And that's the institutional contribution which is very important in developing the graduate students. Next one. What is the level of competitiveness? Now this is a little pointed question I've asked. You can read it yourself. I don't need an answer. I just want you to reflect about it. Because at the end of the day, PhD students are our brand ambassadors. They carry our name outside. Every time we take in a new graduate student, we need to ask ourselves, are we there? Our students, PhD students, might be getting very good jobs in the country. Kudos, fantastic. I want them to be competitive outside. If you come from any other institution, for example, if I got a student from, for example, UC Davis, graduated from there, I don't give a second thought about it. If a student is coming from Penn State, I don't give a second thought about it. Somebody coming from Australia, I don't give a second thought about it. I want people outside UAE saying, this student is coming from UAE University, I have the confidence to take that student. This is all what we should be working towards, to make sure that we make our graduate students the brand ambassadors of this place. I think so the university will be blessed by this reputation. And this is the type of graduate education we want to have in this university, inshallah, one day. Okay. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for attending, and please, before you leave, there's a small feedback. If you can just scan your phone and give us your feedback. We appreciate your time, and Professor Bhanu, with your valuable time, really. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.